The word around the league, whispered in studio corridors and hinted at by knowing smiles on camera, is that something seismic has shifted behind the scenes? And fans are only just beginning to feel the tremors. The idea of a swap between Baltimore and Philadelphia had been floating like smoke for a while, never solid enough to grab. Always dismissed as chatter designed to stir engagement, but now the tone has changed. Insiders are leaning forward, voices lowering, suggesting that this is no longer just noise. The Ravens, a franchise known for calculated aggression, are rumored to have pulled off a move that instantly reshapes their offensive identity. A.J. Brown, a name that alone commands defensive attention, is suddenly being spoken of as if he already belongs in purple and black. The Eagles, equally strategic and rarely sentimental, appear to have listened, negotiated, and finally nodded. What makes this story even more electric is the presence of SASHI Brown in the background, a figure associated with bold, sometimes polarizing decisions, now credited with orchestrating or influencing this surprising alignment. Nobody is talking in absolutes, but the confidence in these whispers feels different. It feels rehearsed, almost relieved, as if those in the know have been waiting for permission to speak more freely. In the YouTube space, where tone matters as much as facts, this kind of rumor is gold, because it invites the audience into the mystery, making them feel like part of a secret unfolding in real time. As the speculation gains momentum, the narrative being built is less about paperwork and more about philosophy. The Ravens have long been searching for a receiver who can tilt coverage, someone who changes the geometry of the field the moment he steps into the huddle. In these rumors, A.J. Brown is not just a player, but a statement, a declaration that Baltimore is done playing it safe with incremental upgrades. Meanwhile, Philadelphia is painted as pragmatic, willing to sacrifice a star for flexibility, future assets, or a different kind of balance. The chatter suggests long nights of conversation, layers of conditions, and chess moves that go far beyond a simple exchange of names. SASHI Brown's shadow looms large here because his reputation is built on seeing value where others hesitate, on embracing discomfort for long-term gain. Commentators are framing this as a move that could redefine how both franchises are perceived, not just for the coming season, but for years. Yet everything is wrapped in that delicious uncertainty that fuels sports media. Nobody is rushing to stamp this as official fact. Instead, the story is being told like a slow burn, each new hint adding heat, each denial only making believers more convinced that something very real is hiding just beneath the surface. What really captures attention is how quickly the fan bases have reacted, almost as if they sensed this possibility before it was ever spoken aloud. In Baltimore, the idea of pairing their existing offensive core with a receiver of Brown's physicality and polish has sparked vivid imaginations. People are talking about mismatches, about red zone dominance, about the psychological impact on opposing defenses. In Philadelphia, the conversation feels more conflicted, tinged with both trust in the front office and an emotional attachment to a player who embodies toughness and swagger. The rumor mill feeds on this tension, amplifying every quote, every vague social media post, every ambiguous gesture caught on camera. SASHI Brown is again framed as the architect of chaos, someone unafraid to let the world argue while he calmly executes a plan few fully understand at first glance. Analysts on YouTube lean into this, lowering their voices, telling viewers to read between the lines, to notice how carefully words are chosen by team representatives. This is not being sold as a clean break or a clear win for one side. Instead, it is portrayed as a daring gamble for both, one that only makes sense if you believe in vision over comfort. That framing keeps audiences hooked because it mirrors the uncertainty that defines fandom itself. Another layer to this unfolding story is the timing, which, while never explicitly stated, feels intentional in the way it's being discussed. The sense is that both organizations reached a point where standing still was more dangerous than making a controversial move. For the Ravens, the rumor suggests a realization that their window demands boldness, not patience. For the Eagles, it hints at confidence in their system, in their ability to develop and adapt regardless of individual names. SASHI Brown's involvement is often described with a mix of admiration and suspicion, as if people are still deciding whether he is a visionary or a disruptor. That ambiguity only adds fuel. YouTubers thrive on this kind of narrative because it allows them to explore multiple angles without committing to a single truth. They can speculate about locker room reactions, about how coaches might redesign playbooks, About whether this move signals further surprises to come, the language used is careful but charged, filled with phrases like sources suggest and league circles believe. It is storytelling rooted in possibility rather than confirmation, and that makes every viewer feel like they are witnessing the early chapters of something that will eventually be looked back on as a turning point. The human element is never far from the surface in these discussions. A.J. Brown is spoken of not just as a weapon, but as a personality, a presence that changes energy. The rumor frames him as eager for a new challenge, hungry for a stage where his impact feels undeniable. Whether that is projection or insight is left intentionally unclear. In Philadelphia, the narrative imagines difficult conversations, leadership weighing loyalty against strategy. In Baltimore, it imagines excitement barely contained behind closed doors. SASHI Brown becomes a symbol in this context, representing the willingness to make decisions that will be debated endlessly. Commentators emphasize that this is how legacies are shaped, not through safe choices, but through moments that divide opinion. They remind viewers that many moves initially labeled reckless later become obvious in hindsight. This storytelling approach keeps the rumor alive and evolving, because it invites reinterpretation with every new piece of information. Nothing is static. Every day that passes without outright denial seems to strengthen belief. The absence of clarity becomes evidence itself, at least in the court of public opinion shaped by YouTube narratives. By the time this first wave of speculation reaches its crescendo, the audience is fully immersed in the idea that this trade, real or not, represents something bigger than two teams swapping assets. It symbolizes a league in constant motion, where reputations are fluid and certainty is rare. The Ravens and Eagles are cast as bold actors on a dramatic stage, with SASHI Brown as a quiet director influencing the script. The rumor is told not as breaking news, but as an unfolding saga, one that rewards attention and interpretation. Viewers are encouraged to imagine how this decision echoes through meeting rooms, practice fields, and fan communities. Even without official confirmation, the story feels alive, sustained by its internal logic and the credibility of the figures involved. That is the power of this kind of narrative. It does not demand belief, it invites curiosity, and in the world of sports content, curiosity is often stronger than certainty, keeping people watching, listening, and waiting for the next whisper that pushes the story forward. As the conversation rolls into a deeper phase, the tone subtly shifts from surprise to analysis, as if everyone has accepted that this possibility deserves serious consideration. The rumor now is not just about whether the trade happened, but about what it reveals regarding the mindset of those in power. The Ravens are being framed as unapologetically aggressive, a franchise willing to challenge conventional patience in pursuit of immediate transformation. The Eagles, conversely, are portrayed as disciplined and forward-thinking, capable of detaching from emotional favorites to protect a broader vision. SASHI Brown's name continues to surface as a connective thread, someone whose influence transcends job titles and official announcements. YouTube hosts lean into this, suggesting that his fingerprints are recognizable in the structure of the rumored deal. In its balance of risk and reward, the language remains speculative, but it is confident speculation, delivered with the cadence of someone who has seen similar stories become reality before. This second phase of the narrative feels more reflective, less shocked, more curious about consequences. It invites viewers to think beyond headlines and imagine the ripple effects across the league, across future negotiations, and across how power brokers perceive one another. In this expanded discussion, A.J. Brown's potential fit in Baltimore becomes a canvas for imagination. Commentators describe hypothetical alignments not with play diagrams, but with emotion and momentum. They talk about how a single player can change the way a team walks onto the field, how defenses prepare differently, how confidence compounds. None of this is presented as guaranteed success, but as possibility, which is far more compelling. In Philadelphia, the narrative explores resilience, the idea that systems outlast individuals, that culture can absorb loss and still thrive. This framing protects the Eagles from appearing weakened, instead casting them as adaptable. SASHI Brown's reputation again adds intrigue, because he is known for valuing process over perception. The rumor suggests he saw an opportunity where others saw danger. YouTube storytellers thrive here, weaving past examples and theoretical outcomes into a seamless flow that feels both informed and conversational. The absence of concrete confirmation allows creativity to flourish, turning the rumor into a thought experiment that fans can engage with deeply. Another compelling angle that emerges is how this rumored exchange might influence future behavior across the league if a move of this magnitude can happen quietly, with only whispers as warning. What does that say about transparency and leverage? Analysts speculate that front offices are becoming more adept at controlling narratives, letting rumors serve as pressure valves or smokescreens. In this context, SASHI Brown is almost mythologized as someone who understands media dynamics as well as roster construction. The Ravens and Eagles are portrayed as students of this reality, willing to let speculation do some of the work for them. This layer of meta-analysis appeals strongly to YouTube audiences who enjoy feeling savvy, as if they are decoding strategy alongside the experts. The rumor becomes a lesson as much as a story, illustrating how modern sports management operates in shadows as much as in public view. Every vague comment from a coach, every carefully worded statement, is dissected for meaning. The trade itself almost becomes secondary to the process that allowed it to exist as a believable possibility. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support keeps us bringing you the latest news on the Baltimore Ravens, and hey, drop your take in the comments below. We want to hear from the flock. The emotional stakes continue to rise as fans imagine the first moments this rumored change would become visible, not in statistics or results, but in body language, in how players interact, in the subtle shifts that cameras inevitably capture. Commentators paint scenes of introductions, of press interactions filled with coded language, of smiles that reveal little. They stress that even if this move ultimately looks different than expected, the fact that it feels plausible speaks volumes. It suggests a league where boundaries are more flexible, where alliances shift quickly. SASHI Brown's surprise factor is emphasized again, reinforcing the idea that predictability is no longer a given. This keeps the narrative alive even as time passes. The rumor adapts, absorbing new context, staying relevant by focusing on themes rather than facts. For a YouTube channel built on engagement and storytelling, this is ideal. It allows the host to revisit the topic repeatedly, each time adding a new perspective without ever needing to declare finality. As the second part of this story approaches its own conclusion, the emphasis turns toward reflection. What does it mean for fans to live in this constant state of speculation? The rumor of A.J. Brown joining the Ravens, facilitated by the strategic minds behind both franchises, becomes a mirror for the modern sports experience. Certainty is rare, patience is tested, and imagination fills the gaps. SASHI Brown's role, whether direct or symbolic, underscores the importance of daring thinkers in a conservative environment. The Ravens and Eagles are no longer just teams in this narrative. They are characters representing different philosophies that occasionally intersect in dramatic fashion. YouTube storytellers wrap this all in a conversational tone, reminding viewers that part of the joy lies in the waiting, in the debates, in the shared anticipation. Even without official confirmation, the story has already done its work, sparking conversation and challenging assumptions, and that, perhaps, is the most real outcome of all, proving that in sports, rumors are not just noise, but a vital part of the ongoing dialogue that keeps the game alive beyond the field. The rumor continues to breathe and evolve, taking on a life of its own as more voices join the conversation and add their own interpretations. At this stage, it feels less like a simple exchange between two franchises and more like a reflection of how power, confidence, and ambition interact in the modern league. Commentators begin to suggest that this move, if truly as real as it feels, signals a broader shift in how elite organizations view timing. Waiting for perfect conditions may no longer be the priority. Instead, striking when intuition aligns with opportunity becomes the defining trait of successful leadership. The Ravens are described as leaning fully into their competitive identity, embracing the idea that calculated disruption can be a catalyst for growth. The Eagles, in turn, are portrayed as self-assured enough to absorb criticism in exchange for long-term flexibility. SASHI Brown's influence remains a recurring theme, almost like a narrative anchor, reminding audiences that bold decisions often come from individuals willing to detach ego from outcome. YouTube hosts lean back, speak slower, and invite viewers to consider how often the biggest moves are dismissed before they are understood. The rumor becomes an invitation to rethink assumptions, to accept that what feels shocking today can become obvious tomorrow. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay in the loop with exclusive news on our Baltimore Ravens, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what the flock thinks. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.